This is stop 4 of the stop 6. And this is one of those rare times within the system that I do suggest that in order to understand what stop 4 is, you really need to be familiar with the material in stop 1, 2, and 3, and then of course 5 and 6 that come after it. It's a mixed weapon, hand, stick, knife, gun world. So we're going to have long guns and pistols and knives and sticks all involved in this process. So we do want you very much aware of your use of force concerns in this mixed weapon situation, and understand you have to take only that force necessary to accomplish what it is you're trying to accomplish. Remember that the stop 6, the 6 common stopping points of a typical fight or a typical arrest. And for review, stop 1 is out here somewhere in the standoff showdown position. We got stuck here somehow. Stop 2, if I go reaching for you, if he's reaching for me, our hands may well go up, and we might get hands on hands, fingers in fingers, hands on, fingers in, and get stuck here. The least you are trained, the more you will be stuck in any one of these stop 6 positions. The next collision point is at the forearms, and it could be any configuration. This is the simple one, but you know it could be 2 forearms out on against 1, but it's forearm contact is the stop 3 area. Stop 4, where we will be discussing today, is, I like to refer to it as sort of bicep clavicle neckline, where 2 guys collide and they get stuck here. Stop 5 is any kind of bear hug. I like the term bear hug because it is vague and could mean many different things. You have a chest to chest, sometimes side to chest, back to chest, headlocks of some kind, anything in this close-up grabbing range. And then stop 6 is any collision on the ground. Stop 4, we wind up here. Now, it could be hands like his hand could be here, his hand could be here, any type of configuration along this line, loose or up against a wall. Look at the arm position to try to get some type of advantage as to what my plan is. Crossover, grabs, reach over the top. Needless to say, you have to have a working knowledge of striking. All the strikes, right up the arm, to the forearm, to the shoulder, the body ram, all of it before you should be engaging in any of these things, because you'll need striking. You know, there's sort of, for lack of a better term, tier 1 fighting, which is about knocking the person out, taking him out, or diminishing him, diminishing his capabilities, physically and mentally. Once you achieve that lower level, then we might say tier 2 material come in. And that is the whole host of other things that you can do against a diminished fighter. The tier 2 material is what is often criticized by the tough guy combatives people, or I know that this won't work. Well, let me break a chair over your head first, and then we'll see if that might work. You know, that's tier 2 material. Unfortunately, most of the training, the martial training material that is taught regularly is tier 2 material. And you have to understand where it fits in the big picture. There's tier 1 material, that is the knockout, the diminishment, the stuff that makes someone lose their ability to function completely. And then there's tier 2, the takedowns, the throws, the control measures, all that stuff that the short-sighted and shallow ridicule because they don't have the mature understanding of both of these situations. So in stop 4, like all of the other stops, you've got to understand that a tier 1 response is trying to diminish the bad guy. The problems in law enforcement and security is they expect and anticipate you to operate with all that tier 2 material. And then when that fails, then you get to switch over to do some tier 1 stuff to drop back to tier 2. And that's the curse of law enforcement and security fighting. So for us in this training area, I want you to always remember and presume that you're going to respond with the tier 1 stunning knockout type of material, takeout, knockout, stunning material. And because we can't start everything I'm about to show you with a punch to the nose. Remember, as we progress through this series, this punch to the nose. We have a little study that we call the push-shove module, and it's good against someone who's being ambushed or surprise attacked. And that's just when someone comes up to provoke you into a fight. The first push may be a total surprise to you. The second one, you're gearing up for a response. The third one, by now we hope that you're responding in some way. And so what I ask our folks to do is just get used to the push. And so I will be the trainer, for example, he's the trainee. I'll shove him once, I'll shove him twice, I'll shove him 3 times. Then he shoves me, and then I shove him, and as you're doing it, you may yell at him, just so that you experience that shove and get after it. I mean, really scream and shove and push the guy around. Sets of 3 back and forth. We have escapes to this push approach. Remember, he's pushed us once, he's pushed us twice, he's pushed us 3 times. Don't get hung up on the numbers. The concept is sometimes you're ambushed and you get pushed before you can drop into your Jackie Chan military combatives quick response that you think you're always going to do from a 0 to 60 second. But at any rate, if he's pushing me, whatever number it is that you become alert and ready to respond, here is to the outside this way, here is to the outside this way, and then versus that full push, here's this splitter. Every one of these has problems, because if here you are in the center, are you ready for this? Are you burrowed down and footballed ready to deal with this guy who's charging you? How big is he? I have all these things to think about. And we will, always suggest the shots to the throat, palm strikes, and include getting the eye, ear claps, all that stuff that you want to do that you should know how to do before you're doing this. But from the outside, you see it's palm, backhand, palm. It is backhand, palm, palm. Don't overthink this. Just knock this SOB over to the side in any arm configuration circle manner that you deem as successful. On this side, the same thing that gets him over. And so you have outside to the left, outside to the right, and the infamous splitter where you have to do all your stuff. Once you've got there, there may be some pushing that's momentarily here. You see this on the television news, you see it in real fights, you see it in videos. That's because maybe they've gotten stuck here for just a short bit. But in the terms of training, the next training task I ask people to do is to, I say, experience the dance. And just push against each other. And I want you to feel the energy forward, the energy back. We don't like to see cross leg crossing over here, but just experience this force. And don't forget, hey man, this is judo here, don't you know? This is where many judo players play And you can incorporate some of your favorite judo moves in here that are practical ones. And don't forget, all this can happen up against the wall. You can start out here, boom! You can be shoved against the wall. Start here, switch people. Kind of get used to the fact that it also counts against the wall. So the shove isn't often the invasion where we wind up in that stop for position. And then, of course, there are many other examples. For example, he may throw a hook punch, which I block and I drop here. I throw a hook punch. He stops me and blocks here. He may throw two hook punches. Boom, boom, and I wind up here. Punching, dodging punches, blocking punches, you can suddenly wind up in this position. So for a possible drill that you can do to get to see the events and experience them that happens. He throws a hook punch, bam, and I stop it here. I throw this hook punch, bam, and he stops it, and here we have this connection. I suggest that you do this once, and then step back here. 2, 2, 3. Do that a bunch of series of times, and so that you can experience that problem. We've experienced this push-pull that's right here. What I'd like for you to do next is try one sort of football, rugby stiff arm on one side and push-pull in on this. And you may wind up, opening up your hand somewhere here so you get more of a palm involved in this. But it's a stiff arm. You'll see later we're drawing knives, sticks, and guns. We need our hand free, and then you have one stiff arm from one side, go back to this, move around a bit, and then the one stiff arm from the other side, keeping him away within the confines of an exercise. 2 hands, stiff arm this side, come back to this 2 hands, and stiff arm that side. Here we wanted to take a look at arm positioning. In older systems, would refer to some of this as arm pummeling, which is a bad word because we know what pummeling is. But you see people in here pummeling for position, rolling their hands to best follow the strategy that they want to do next. For example, let's just say that we're like this and I wanted to knee him. Well, his elbow and arm is free. As that knee comes up, he could stop me. So if my plan is to knee him, I might arm sweep to tie up his arm. And so when you're in this position, you should practice positioning your arms. Roll out, roll in, be on top, be on bottom, depending on your next step that you want to do. Now to some real pummeling. We're stuck here. This is a set, a workout set. Remember, we're just covering options. No guarantees, no promises, but we're stuck and we want to get out of this position. We'll just drop this hand so that you can see this view here. We have just 2 quick hits. I can't defeat him. I can't even, get a good shot in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to vertical strike this arm right here. So you have a vertical, you have a horizontal, and you have a crossover shot. Where on this side here, we have a vertical, a horizontal, and a crossover shot to break these arms free. Vertical, horizontal, crossover, vertical, horizontal, and a crossover. Some kicking options that you might do when you get stuck in stop 4. Crash, you can start to kick. It's a training set that we have. And so you have a kick here. So you say, it's my left to his right leg is the target. You have a shin kick and a shin kick that you could use there. And then now we're over on this side. You have a shin kick and a shin kick that can use there. So for the training, you can say bang, 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 bang. You know, you can just kind of work across and help develop the person's muscle memory to kick instantly. Then we might add knee here and knee here. Do it while walking so that you have the idea that you may be off balance when you try to do a little short knee or a short kick. So we ask people to do the whole set as a training set. You're here, you collide. You have this kick, knee, knee, this kick, and this kick. That way you have a training set to get these people used to kicking and kneeing when they get into this collision. Counterwise, finish up the kicking routine and set by counters. And so basically, if you're here, you can detect that that kick is coming in by watching and feeling his body motion as you save your leg, you save your leg. You save your groin, you save your groin. You save this leg, you save this leg. Remember the judo application to this. They'd like for you to be one-legged for just a half a second because they would like to use their favorite takedown on you. And if you're a one-legged man, that's easier. That's why you save it and put it back right away. So slowly to see this, he saves his leg, he saves his leg. He saves his knee, he saves his knee. He saves his leg, he saves his leg. It's a counter series. He's here, and he's really strong, and I'm having just some trouble trying to do my next thing, whatever that might be. So one of the options you might think about is a powerful hook punch, but even if you can't reach his head, it still is going to get rid of this grip for you. And if you could reach his head, all the more better. But sometimes you can't. So you're here, you got a power torso hook punch that clears, maybe follows up with an elbow. And on this side, a power hook punch that clears all these grips. And you can follow up with an elbow or two and then do the rest of your stuff. Another option you may try to do is a sort of I bend my arms and I have a football style escape on these grips. I kind of gouge, in other words, I arm position to below his arms and then blast up to do whatever finishes that you want to do to continue a combat scenario. Another option to think about. We went up, but you can also go down. And I've positioned, this is why this stuff is so important, because it helps you get into position. Here's another version here where I'm just going to get by configuration and pound down and release, perhaps it's a choke or just a regular grab in this area. From here, you have this face mauling attack or anything else that you want to do. Just as a reminder, a lot of times the person is not choking you like Frankenstein. He's got bent arms. And this bent arm configuration can cause you problems where this is very powerful. This may not be against certain people. That's why we teach you the crossover clear shot to unlock your way out of these double arm positions. Now, Rawhide is going to be, I'm the trainer, he's the trainee. I stiff arm him, and I'm going to try to deliver a series of blows, and he just blocks them. They're going to be hook punches. You know, from what side of the clock are these things? You know, you have from above, you have on the right side, you have from below. It's unlikely he'll be dealing with something from the backhand. You have a thrust that's high, a thrust that's to the side, a thrust that is low. And so and then we go back to this. You know? And then at any given time, the trainer stiff arms, and gives him a bunch of punches like that, and he has to deal with them. Then he comes back to the normal position again. Stiff arms on this side, punch and block, punch and block, punch and block. He's up against the wall. I stiff arm, reach back, and now he's got a block here. All these different attacks, and yelling it comes his way. We have the stiff arm, but another option might be the arm, to come in and arm wrap. Now you can see I got the beginning of the reverse bent arm bar here, but this is not about takedowns from these positions, you know. We're here, I wrap the arm, it may be kind of straight, and then he has to block these punches. Coming in, hand strikes and punches with some yells. He has to deal with the arm wrap. Then we come back to this position again, moving around. I wrap this arm. He has to deal with the same problems coming in. Here's a street trick, utilizing someone's clothing. This is not stretchable. If he had a stretchable jacket, then you probably couldn't do this. But here's this arm deal. You wrap the arm in some way. Now watch what I'm going to do right here. I grab this jacket and I shove down and grab as deep as I can. And for a few seconds, he's incapacitated to where I can start hitting him. I saw this happen for real, and so I know it can work. You know, it worked very well in a gang fight that I was responding to. And so here's that shot, or we're here. You wrap this arm. You stun him, you grab, this buries as deep as possible down into this sleeve, and you've kind of tied him up, and you have a few seconds to destroy the technology in his brain. He's thinking, I know all these different things, and then boom, I seem to know less. Boom! All that, you're knocking all the technology out of his brain. Another occurrence, very, very short, temporary, is against the hook punch. We see a lot of bicep. You catch that, you catch it, it's coming in, and you have a bicep where here, and then here comes this rear reach back, and I'm going to try to ride this out. You can't stay here. He will eventually do something else, but you've intercepted it at a weaker position that's further back than up here a little bit closer. Otherwise, you might think about some sort of forearm block like this. But just as an aside from, Thai boxers have gloves on, so they don't worry about these issues. But if you try to catch someone and your thumb is like this, you could have a problem. But so you have to try to get it to where, and you try to stop it like this, he's got a powerful hook punch, that could be a problem. So you just have to try to build that skill, or you make that first contact and get to that position. You make that first contact, get to that better position where you're not like this or like this, and then it's temporary. You cannot stay here, but it's definitely a skill he can challenge you with, and you could train stopping that hook punch with a bicep ride. Off of stop 4, I have many of my system instructors and students who can nail a center lock off of this position very, very easily. I myself can't find it that easily, but they seem to be able to do it. And so there's one on the chest and one on the bicep. But the stars have to be aligned to capture that center lock. We discuss it in other programs all the time, and I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it now. But you see that center lock position is very painful. And if you are up here, I have to turn and get this, and we'll rotate just a little bit over here to see that position. And then if he's got you on that bicep, I seem to want to use 2 hands to do it, but I have people who in a real push and shove, who can nail that center lock, disable that person just for a second or two, wham, and let him have a shot. So as a result of me seeing it full speed several times, this is the reason why I'm showing it to you now. From that other side, so that we have no hands in the way, here he is pushing me on the chest. I come and try to get that center lock this way. Here he is pushing me on that bicep. I roll over and I get that center lock there. I just want you to mess with it because I've seen it done pretty successfully. up against the wall, stop 4. Another way to double unlock or get out of this predicament is I reach over the arm, grab here, and sort of trap and release and maybe strike. We're over here, I reach over the arm, try to pin this one down, get this, try to release it, and then I'll try to strike. So it's a reach over and trap and strike. This is what we might refer to, and I got the term from Nick Hughes, the Frankenstein choke, off of the Frankenstein walk. But people do actually choke you this way. And when you have these arms in this position, so all these are, pretty effective. But what if you got that bent arm guy? The distance is quite far, and sometimes those powerful quick solutions may not work for you. And you say, well, you kick them or you punch them right away. Have you ever been choked out and you realize you may have a few seconds left and it's horrible, and you instinctively want to get this pressure off your neck? And so sometimes you do instinctively clear, so you can breathe first, and then you go about other stuff. So when it's here, sometimes I may be able to do it. I may be able to do it against a replication of me. But many people that you have as students may not have the power to do this and break someone's adrenalized grip on them, especially when their arms are out like that. So that's where, these double crossover shots are very helpful to unlock. Let me talk one moment about the protected draw, because you're drawing in this position from a stiff arm and turning away. And you see a lot of gun people, they will take the non-gun side and step forward, or the gun side and step back, turn the draw process away from the opponent. It's a good idea, providing you don't have a big taser in a cross draw or some other stuff that can get over here. But at any rate, that protected draw, as you turn and reach back, this arm is up in some position depending upon how far away the guy is and what he's doing to you. So don't automatically put your hand up like this. It might not be necessary. It may be smarter to have it out here, or to stop, or to push, or something like this. Don't automatically do this. Common mistake is on shooting ranges by people who have never been in gunfights, they draw like this, worry about the knuckle of their thumb reaching a particular rib, turning the gun forward, and then they push the gun out and they get into the mandatory two-handed grip. Well, if the guy was so close that you needed to do this, you have no business sticking your arms out so close to him, because he can get your gun and swipe your arms aside or whatever. So step 1 doesn't meet up with step 3 or 4, the final one. And another thing, just as an aside, I'm not anal retentive enough to worry about which knuckle is touching which rib, the third rib. Do you know where your third rib is in a gunfight? In a gunfight, you'd be lucky to know where your hand is. Least of all, what knuckle is touching what rib under what layer of clothing. It's almost nonsense to worry about. The gun clears the holster, you can turn it up at a right angle and shove it forward. And let's not be rib counting and knuckle counting, because you won't really know. You'll be lucky to know where your hand is, least of all, which rib you're touching. It's just minutia. It's just minutia. We crashed into stop 4, and for whatever reason it is, I need my pistol out. I can't explain for you here the use of force that might be involved. There might be other people here. He might be armed. There might be a loose gun or a loose knife on the ground. I don't know. But we've crashed and collided. I am going to arm position to the football straight arm and then draw the gun far enough back that he should be having trouble trying to get it. Can I shoot him? Man, I don't know what the situation is. You and him in a dark alley in Iraq or something, maybe you can. But we are just practicing stress quick draws from the stop 4 position. Always do it from an action position. I roll under, stiff arm, pull out the gun. If he detects this from stop 4, here, I drop, and then he grabs my forearm. We are right back to our gun retention handbook and training manual and outline. I am not going to resort to handgun retention methods that are pretty common, right? I let go of the gun, I step away from the gun, I slack release. If I continue to still need it, I'll pull it out. But we'll use that hand slap release to free up the grip on my hand. If I'm here, I grab the gun and get it out. And he grabs it right here. If this is a lethal force situation, you've already pulled the gun out. Sometimes, you know, in real life, you pull a gun out to bluff and realize that you can't shoot the person, but that you might have to, and you're pulling it out because you have enough fear. The situation has percolated to the point where you think you need to pull this gun out. Well, here he's got me here. I'm going to try to do that same motion to get a release, and then I'm there. If he grabs the gun itself, he may even grab my finger outside the trigger guard to prevent me from going in there. I'm here, I can pull the gun out and then try to get control of the deal with my handgun. Long gun situation. I didn't attach anything to it because I want to cover 2 issues. The sling weapon and then the lanyard weapon. And they can produce different responses for you. But if I'm here and we've collided with whoever it is, in a two-handed problem, right? Now, if I have a lanyard that's hanging low, it might be commando style around my neck, whatever. Maybe I can't bring this up. If it's a battlefield, you can just blow his legs to smithereens, you know, if that's what you need to do. But you can stiff arm. Let's just say you're trying to enter a room and you've got a person who's charged at you like this, almost suicidal. If you have that football-style stiff arm, you can access the weapon and maybe bring it up. Maybe you choose to fight with it hanging on you. That's different. But you've opened up this area now to try to get your weapon up and into play. We've collided and crashed. We both have guns. Of course, he's the bad guy. I'm the good guy. The trainer's the good guy. And we'll circle around to see where we have to be aware of the fact the primary carry sites, think quick draw around the belt line, the pockets, the typical places. Secondary carry sites, think back up the pants, down in the boot, neck weapon hanging. It takes digging for him to get out. Tertiary carry sites, a lunge and reach situation. And so he could have that handgun under a t-shirt or a knife under that t-shirt anywhere in his belt line. So if we're here and he drops down to a primary carry site, I'm probably reflexively going to reach down and try to stop it, you know, and he starts to grab it. He's got kind of almost an SOB carry right here, a small back carry. Well, I see that. I have reflexively lunged forward and tried to stop this from happening. If he was adrenalized and real, just continue to draw. See, he's getting it out. Because in real life, they're resisting you, you know. So I at least have the gun aiming away from me. I reach for mine and he catches me. I'm going to hope that I'm the one that knows to do this, to take this weapon off of me. And he doesn't know to pull it out here away from him. And so look at this configuration here. I'm going to start blowing him apart in this lethal force situation. The shin, the kneecap, the pelvis, I'm going to zipper up that body and start blasting him to get out of this deal. And so really it's a double draw of weapons, except I'm the smart one from training that would take the gun off of me out to here. So, well, you know, what exercises are that? You know, do those. Because you want to have strength in the grip just to clear that gun. And sweet Jesus, man, can we hesitate? No. Start blowing that gun up. As soon as you possibly get something to shoot, all the way up. Boom. Here we are, we've landed again. If I see him going to pull that weapon, I have just shown you that common reflexive hand grasp on the weapon-bearing limb. But don't forget, too, to thread that needle and try to get that arm smother that could eventually lead to the rear arm bar hammerlock. But the arm smothering is pretty good. He's got a weapon. I'm not going to try to do any fast thinking stand-up jiu-jitsu. I'm just going to destroy the back of his neck with my forearm and hammer fist till he drops out. We've crashed and we're in stop 4. Same situation as with the gun. I reach down to try to get the knife, he grabs it. I let go, slap release. Maybe I continue to get the knife out. What should I do to this guy? Use of force. What's the situation? The totality of circumstances. What will a reasonable and prudent person allow me to do? What will the dumbest juror agree that my actions were right? It's heavily, heavily situational. But you respond in that same way with that draw. You may scare him away. Get out of here. What are you, crazy? I'll kill you with this thing. Whatever. Then you popped out the stop 1, the folding knife. You see him drop. Maybe you've already seen the telltale clip sticking out of his pocket, his belt line. He has got to access this in some manner that is not a tight grip. This has a hook. You've got a wave. Sometimes it catches on the material of the pocket and opens up right away. That's bad for you. Good for him, bad for you. You get this knife, you have the same thing, good for you. But you have to deal with that. If he has the disc, the hole, whatever device it is that slows that process down, this is not a good grip for him to hold the knife as he starts to pull it out. And you know, a lot of times too, they desperately slap their pocket and squeeze this clip onto the pocket material of their pants, creating drag and slowing the drawdown. But as this knife is coming out, the grip is not good. He's indexing whatever it is to try to open it. And what I've done in the past in my own little non-scientific, don't trust it, do it yourself style lab test is try to, when I see the early phase of a folder quick draw, is hammer fist or forearm strike the area where he's working. In this test, my friend pulled the knife out, and I struck the area, his hand somewhere around here, and 8 out of 10 times I was able to knock the folding process and knock the knife out of his hand. Then 1 out of 10 times I was able to hit and the blade dropped back in the handle, and 1 out of 10 times I'd missed. And this is not a bad ratio. It's a non-scientific test. It may change when you do it. But nonetheless, the concept is there. He starts to go for that knife. He starts to pull it out. I hit it and try to interrupt that quick draw process. Early phase counter to a knife quick draw from any of the stops, least of all stop 4, is to cut. You see that, release, come down and try to knock that knife out. In the stop 4, sometimes the stop 5, other stop positions, we have the dreaded, horrible knife stitching rush that is everybody's nightmare and is so difficult to survive. And so we're just going to give you an idea or two about this. But man, does it suck when you're stuck in that position. Hopefully you're awake enough and aware enough. It's not a complete ambush where you have some hope. But of course, this is the one where the guy pulls from here with a stiff arm, pulls from here, or approaches you with a concealed knife, saber or reverse grip. You've got to do both of these. The concealed blade is easy to conceal with a reverse grip, but they can just simply walk up to you with a saber grip behind their leg. They put their hand out, they charge you doing like a sewing machine stitching. It's one of the many common old school ways to describe this. Other people have described it other ways, but this is the first way I learned it decades ago, called stitching, the prison stitch. Anyway, you have the straight arm, which he's considerably far away, and then you have the bent arm. This arm is placed, across your chest and somewhat up against your throat. Things we cover in our Alley Cat Street Fighter knife module. But we're here dealing with this guy who's rushing you. He could be in open space, or it could be up against the wall, or it could be on the ground, which is stop 6 material that we're not covering here. But this is your personal nightmare. It's this way, and he's coming in. Well, probably 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Reverse grip may be more easier to come in up on top of here. A lot of work to be done here. You know, if it happens to you, here's a couple of solutions, but God bless you. 90% of the population is right-handed. Means they're going to be wielding that knife with the right hand 9 out of 10 times. Maybe you should practice against a righty 7 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times. Don't forget the one guy, the one time, and do some practicing on that too. But so you have we're here in the stop 6. He's given me a straight arm. He's pulled out that knife, and here comes this attack. Now, we'll do the simple one first. So we have this straight arm attack here, and then you've got what many of them allegedly do in prisons, they allegedly do, but also in working dangerous attacks, people come up with the bent arm because the knife is closer, harder to deal with, harder to catch. Whether, just as a temporary, dangerous solution against the straight arm, against the bent arm, is even, and we work this in that knife course pretty heavily, if it's up against the wall or up against your throat, is go to the outside. That's one thing to do. However, you know how fast this guy's going to turn around and chase you. The suggestion is get away from that knife and get to the outside. Remember how much real football, rugby energy is involved with this shove, even if it's up against the wall. And so this circular motion here may just buy you a second, because you know he's just going to turn around instantly and continue to try to get you again. The straight arm problem, slap aside. The bent arm problem, slap aside. The straight arm problem, slap aside. The bent arm crash, slap aside. Just to give you a chance to do something else. Something to do after, other than try to run away, but you probably might think about. If you get here, here's this magic moment where you have something to do. I really do suspect his head's going to be down because he's rushing and coming at you in that aggressive manner. So shots to the jawline you might not get. You have, if you're a good puncher, you know, a brick-breaking puncher, you have maybe a shot here. I've seen people do a kick to the leg. The old Marine Corps solution, you know, from the Raiders was to palm strike the head in that Gerber baby food. Here's a sample of that, except it's up here to try to stun him and diminish him, as we talked about at the beginning of this film. So you've bought this precious second to get outside of his stitching. What are you going to do with it? It's the guns and have our own time. It's Gatling gun time, I think, or you're going to have to really get out of there as fast as you can. In experimenting with this, you have the guy rush at you, and he's got real power. This is the straight arm. Because remember, we're in stop 6 here, and stop 1 is the real super rush of the stitcher. But it's still, when they close in, it's still pretty much the same problem. He draws that knife, he stiff arms me to set this up. I've got to get out to the outside and hit. I just want to mention to you, as we did with the gun, is to scoot in here maybe. Stun, scoot in here, wrap this up, and you're going to have to fight from here brutally. But the shooter's triangle threading is probably something you might think about if it's there, if you can see it, you know. If he's here and he has arm scooped, you see the pummeling that we discussed, and he gives me to get closer this forearm, this is coming in, I may have to knock it aside, knock that aside, and guns doesn't have our own time, escape time, whatever. He positions the arm. I see this starting to happen. Here comes that first stab. Yow! I try to knock it aside and get after him. Here's the forearm. I can't hit that. Knock it aside. Hit. You're going to have to work these problems out. He starts to draw. I knock this aside. It's coming out. I can then start shooting He goes for it. He starts to do stuff here. Maybe he pulls this out and gets one shot in, and then from here I'm going to have to start shooting him and backing away. At common carry sites, number one being the stress quick draw. If you're a professional in some sort of uniform, you're probably carrying your handgun, at 3 o'clock on a belt. Oh, maybe like 2:30 or maybe 3:30, something like this. But many people now are opting for the pelvis carry. And years ago, we used to call it the appendix carry, decades ago. What was it? Some guy said, if you want to learn something new, pick up an old book. And everything that we do just seems to keep coming around, and someone thinks they've invented it, but no. But the pelvis carry has become a very popular spot for lots of people, and they practice drawing from here, which is different than the mechanics otherwise, And everyone likes to say, well, your genitals are in the way, But you just have to not pull the trigger at that point. Hey, it's up to you. Wherever you want to carry your weapon. I'm telling you that your bad guy may carry his gun right here, and they start shooting right about here and then come up. Now the advantage to this is the fact that if you're on the ground in a ground fight, this gun is accessible many of the positions with your opposite hand. And if you're on the hip and you're down on your right side, your gun or your knife access is a problem. And so with my tactical folder, as a result of this, I am carrying it in the pelvis carry position for that reason. Because in a ground fight, it's a better access. So when you're fighting these people, this is the soup of the day carries here is the appendix carry. And you have to be prepared to see people draw from these carry sites. Look at the arm position to try to get some type of advantage as to what my plan is. Crossover, grabs, reach over the top. I take out the expendable baton, and now I've got it. I can fight with it when it's contracted as a palm stick, and now I've got this one. It's very small, but might be better than having nothing in your hand. It's not a knife, so their use of force considerations might be somewhat different. So we've crashed. And now the bad guy reaches, he gets in position, he reaches down, and he tries to get that pistol. And now I'm in a terrible position, but you'll do this grab, won't you? Because that's all you got to prevent him from getting you. Well, his hand is going to free me in some way. He's going to free the gun. So just reach over there, wrap me off. I have got to do something fast. I've threaded this needle, and I'm going to try to do one of my favorite moves, a forearm hammer drop to take this guy down and get this gun out. In the crash of stop 4, if you're overpowered, if you're overcome, many people will like to do that classic throw that some people refer to still as the Captain Kirk throw, Tomonaki. If you, in a perfect world, you may get this foot in the pelvis, this foot in the other pelvis. You may only get one, you may only get one. You might be able to do it from knee high. Many times people train to land directly behind you and roll up. So sometimes if you're a little sloppy on it, that would be a 12 o'clock ending. If they land at my 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or they land at 1 or 2, it looks a little sloppy, but they don't practice that one. They practice the circus forward roll that's back here. But I think everyone who does stop 4 needs to cover that material because they can be overrun quickly. Pop up and stay up. You can step around here and go to any numerous chokes that you'd like to do, or takedowns from here. Your favorite ones. I will add one for the law enforcement folks, is if I need to pull this gun, I want to quickly hook punch his neck in this manner. And this allows me to draw my gun out, keep other people away, make him surrender, etc., etc. Now we're entering into the categories of combat scenarios, which can be very, very diverse. But you can see how this can change so quickly from stop 4 to stop 5, stop 6. So here are some solutions to the stop 4. And of course, we have many other videos, DVDs, etc. that cover takedowns that you can do once you've collided, freed your arms up, and gotten in close. And so you need to look at the rest of the Stop 6 program and some of the other takedowns to build combat scenarios. Remember, these are just solutions to experiment with. We fully expect you to create your own set of solutions that suit you.